Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. We've had fun last couple of weeks since we've recorded Bowlapalooza, but this is when the really fun begins. This is I guess Big Boy Bowls week coming up here. There's still some fun stuff. There are a couple Bowlapalooza games still outstanding, and we may need those to decide who's going to win that title for this year. But Carla,
yes,
big ones. The big ones are coming.
Big games are coming, and it kind of starts tonight when you start seeing like teams you've heard of. if you're not really paying much attention, I think we've got Wisconsin. We're recording this. What day is it? Happy holidays. We have no idea.
It does not matter. It is the day.
Oklahoma State maybe tonight. Like
Wisconsin, Oklahoma State. I think on right now is East Carolina is Wampin Coastal. So yeah, and it's been a thing that's made this kind of interesting is just to see how much transfer portal. I don't know that are there any starting ACC quarterbacks who are going to be starting for their teams next year?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, now that Sam Hartman's in the portal as of a few hours ago,
yes,
that was the news that broke today. I don't know. DJU is gone. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And it sounds like Sam Hartman's going to end up at Notre Dame. That's what everybody seems to be saying. So
that seems to be the consensus. I think you and I are alike in that we haven't really had a chance to sit down and watch a ton of the games that have come so far this month. We're taping this on the 27th on Tuesday. So just to give you an idea of where we are in the bowl process. Have you seen anything, any plays, any games, anything at all that's stood out to you so far?
Well, I didn't see the whole game, but we definitely were having a text conversation during the Frisco Bowl. Which was North Texas and Boise, and North Texas made that game stupid fun.
They did.
Much more than I was expecting. I expected that to be kind of a big Boise win, but again, CUSA representing so far in the in the bowl season quite nicely. The Frisco Bowl ended at 67 combined points. That's a good AJ Fun index. We'll take that.
Right.
The other quick note is that Buffalo won the Camellia Bowl today. Are they going to be able to get home? They can
go stay with the Bills. They can go stay with the Bills in Chicago.
Yeah.
While they figure that stuff out.
Yeah, that's crazy. But no, I mean, obviously the big game for me was middle in the Hawaii Bowl.
Yes.
And yes, I actually saw most of that game. But when I turned that game on, San Diego State was up 14-0, and I was like, ooh, maybe I'm not going to be watching this game that long because we had family stuff going on for Christmas Eve.
Sure.
But what a win. Like that's the second year in a row that Middle has, and we talked about this on Bowlapalooza. San Diego State is a good football team.
Yeah.
That was a real nice win for the Blue Raiders. Just a couple quick notes. Defensive end Jordan Ferguson, playing in his last game, needed one sack to set the all-time school record. He didn't get it. But he had 5 tackles, an interception, and scored a touchdown on offense.
So that's still a pretty good game.
Yeah, he was named the bowl. He was named the bowl MVP.
It's a decent effort. That's okay.
Yeah, so that's a great way for him to go out. He didn't get the all-time record, but man, what a game for him to wind things up. And so as anybody should say, you win your bowl game, and what's the first thing you say? We want Bama. But no, really, Middle opens its season next year at Bryant-Denny. Next game is against Bama.
Now, were they chanting "We want Bama"? I did not see the end of the game.
No, they weren't.
Not a thing?
No, they weren't. But yeah, we need the signs hanging up all over Murfreesboro. Let's start it now. We want Bama because whether we want them or not, we're getting them.
Yeah. Here it is. Here it is. Next game on the schedule. Yikes.
Yep.
You mentioned the Frisco Bowl with North Texas and Boise State. That was a fun one. I was actually paying more attention that day to SMU BYU, and while it's not the point total you might imagine, but definitely a tight competitive game. One that was neither tight nor competitive. Washington State and Fresno State.
Yes.
And Fresno and Jake Haener absolutely smoked a Pac-12 opponent in that bowl game. And that is a fantastic way for Jake Haener to wrap things up.
Another game that wasn't close. Oregon State over Florida.
Yes.
That game was not close, and now
I wasn't going to bring that up given the interest in the Gators in your family's
in my household.
House. Yeah.
I was real glad that my husband was kind of distracted during that game.
That's good. That's good
because that went over a lot more smoothly. But yeah, that was not. I don't know what Florida was doing in that game. That was just nothing. No, they weren't doing anything in that game. That was the problem.
No clue whatsoever. And DJ's gonna go is gonna go to Oregon State, correct?
He is. Yeah.
Is that what we've heard? Okay.
Yes, that's where he's scheduled to go is out west to Oregon State, and that makes that Oregon State team real interesting next year.
Interesting is the right word. I'm after this season. I'm not concerned. I'm not really. I don't know that it's like an automatic improvement. But maybe he just needs a fresh start. Some Pacific Northwest air versus the heat and humidity of Clemson, South Carolina.
And his family's he's from out there originally. He's originally a West Coast guy, so he's getting closer to home. I think his brother's playing at Hawaii.
Okay. Okay.
So I think that kind of gets them all. Or no, he's not playing at Hawaii. He's playing another Pac-12 team because there was a joke about him getting sacked by his brother.
Okay.
His brother plays defense.
Okay.
So I don't remember where he plays. Maybe it's Oregon. Maybe his brother's at Oregon.
That's something that
he's Oregon State.
We can check on that for the show notes and mention it there. We can't. I would love to be able at this point to talk about the Bowlapalooza standings. As you guys may recall, we're keeping track now. And so we had 6 games, plus the tiebreaker based on the score of the Peach Bowl. But there are still 3 games outstanding. The Gator Bowl, the Arizona Bowl, and the Citrus Bowl. And there are enough differences. So we'll see how it goes. I would note in the Hawaii Bowl that neither Jake nor I picked middle, and now we are sad. I assume Jake is sad. I am. It would have been fun time, right? A fun moment right there to go with your heart rather than trying to be all smart and analytical, because that, for me anyway, as you guys know, that never works. It just doesn't. So, and now you know how I'm going to pick the big boy bowl games. So yeah, it has been fun so far. Middle's win was fantastic. There have been some head scratchers, as we've noted. There haven't been like the off the hook after dark 52-55 kind of games yet. Yeah. Still potential. Still could happen. So keep
I would
watching.
say tonight has potential, but it's Wisconsin.
Yeah, no, that's not.
Yeah,
it's like, and I'm they were talking on one of the games I was watching tonight as we're getting ready, and it's like, is Fickle going to coach? Is he going to be on the sideline? Is he just going to be up in the box, kind of paying attention? We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that ain't the style for the Badgers. So that I don't know. That's going to be one that AJ would be interested in or not. Maybe, I don't know. Chances are, although he would grumble about them, AJ understands that the amount of college football left. You can't say there's a lot of football left because there's not a lot of football left. There's just a few games left, and I know AJ's going to be watching. And these games are the traditional big boys when it comes to bowl season, and they've become even bigger now as like official rewards for good seasons and then the rotating semifinals. We're going to go through the 4 non-semifinal games, and then we will talk about the semifinals. This is not at all a slight, because there's great stuff coming in these bowl games. So let's dive in. On Friday, December 30th. I have in my notes that this game is on ESPN. All of these games are on ESPN. Thankfully, Fox hasn't gotten its hands back on this yet.
Yeah.
We begin at 8 p.m. on Friday, the Capital One Orangiest Bowl. That is AJ's name, I think. It's close to that anyway.
Yes.
It is named that way because number 6 Tennessee versus number 7 Clemson, the Orangiest teams. Sort of like a creamsicle.
Yeah.
Versus, how would you just play pumpkin? How would you describe that orange?
That orange is
brighter. I don't know.
It's brighter. Yeah. Pumpkin orange. That's good.
The number 6 creamsicles versus the number 7 Clemson pumpkins. The pumpkins are favored by 4.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is, I think, the funnest of this bunch at 63.5 points. What do you think about this one? Besides the preponderance of orange in the Orangiest Bowl.
All I have to say is, like, the end of this game, like the Gatorade bath, it better be orange. Like that.
If it's another color, someone needs to be fired.
Exactly.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely. 100%. But no, this is a really interesting matchup. You know, we've been joking about calling this the Orangiest Bowl, but it's also like the backup quarterback bowl.
Right.
I mean, because unfortunately, Hendon Hooker, is out for this game for Tennessee, and that's kind of where their season kind of went off the rails a little bit when they lost him. Joe Milton will be starting, and he was actually the starting quarterback last year. So that's something to kind of file away, that Joe Milton has experience running this offense. Now, he was benched in favor of Hendon Hooker, so there's that. You have a backup quarterback for a reason, right? But on the other side of the ball, similar situation. DJ got benched for Cade Klubnik, a freshman, who is now the quarterback. He's QB1 now because DJ's gone. So he's QB1 now for Clemson. Klubnik went over a ton of fans in the ACC title game. But what we know about him is limited to that one game. Really. And so, a lot of what I've been reading about him is he the next great Clemson quarterback, or was he just playing against a not so great Carolina defense?
Tough to say.
Right? We don't know. Well, we don't know. We're going to find out here. Because although that being said, the Tennessee defense in the secondary especially is kind of questionable. Tennessee's mojo all season has been to get out in front early. Tennessee cannot come from behind. That's just not the way that they're wired. That's not the way their offense runs.
Right.
So the Vols' run defense could be the difference here, because the Vols' rush defense is actually really, really good. And that puts all of the pressure on the young quarterback. Right. And so I think the experience that you have, I mean, yes, you got 2 backup quarterback. Well, at least during at one point this season, they were both the backup quarterbacks. Now they're both QB1s. You have more experience with Milton. He knows the offense a little bit better. If a Clemson team is disappointed they didn't get into the playoff, I'm leaning Tennessee in this game, but there's so many question marks around this game. I did see something really interesting. I'm going to say Tennessee is my pick. ESPN's Chris Lowe and David Hale had a really interesting note in their preview for this game that said, we got the Orangiest Bowl, and they didn't call it the Orangiest Bowl. They called it the Orangiest Orange Bowl or something like that. I like ours better. We got the Orangiest Bowl thanks to South Carolina.
Yes.
Because South Carolina beat both of these teams.
Yes.
Which caused them both to end up falling into the Orange Bowl. Yeah.
And let's look at the transitive properties here.
Yeah.
Here's an unlikely method for picking this game. We'll call it the Gamecock Challenge.
I like it.
And it's important, as you noted, it is important to understand that Tennessee and Clemson both played Carolina late in the season. South Carolina, both lost. And neither loss was, I mean, if you're talking about the score, I guess Clemson's loss is better, but it was also at home. And then Tennessee just got smoked in Columbia.
Right.
I think the Gamecocks put up 63 points.
Yeah.
Something
that was the game that Hooker got hurt.
Something really, really not good. Where does that leave us? Okay. Interesting. And you're correct on comparing the quarterback, because we have two relatively unknown properties. Klubnik saw a little time in different instances where DJU was benched. And I think that's a different situation than in Tennessee, where a guy who had been the starter was unseated. So perhaps this is a situation where maybe his confidence isn't what it was, or perhaps this is a situation sort of Georgia-esque, where you have a guy returning and leading his team to glory and all of that stuff. Neither of those things is really touch on Clemson's defense. UT's run defense is very, very good. Overall, maybe not as good. Clemson's defense is solid. And you're talking about with Klubnik, you're talking about a guy who wasn't a backup because he got beat out. And in a couple instances this season was probably close to being named the starter for a game or two, as the guy ahead of him struggled. He's kind of the anointed successor. I'm making gross assumptions about talent levels here, but I feel like he's got an edge in this game, and I feel like that plus Clemson's defense means the Tigers come away with the Orangiest Bowl that we will ever orange upon. On Saturday, this is when we get into the meat of the New Year's Six games. At noon. Hey, oh look, it's on ESPN. The Allstate Mayhem Sugar Bowl. This is, of course, in New Orleans. Number 5 Alabama versus number 9 Kansas State. Bama's favored by 6.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is 56. It's so weird that Alabama's playing on New Year's Eve and not elsewhere, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is only the second time that Alabama hasn't made the playoff in the existence of the playoff. I went back and looked. But I want to say, can I say that I'm irrationally excited about this game? Because
you may.
I am.
Why is that, Carla?
Yes.
Is it the guys in purple?
Is it the guys in purple? Yes, it is. And my reason for this is, I mean, yes, you look at these two teams on paper and all of the statistics say that Alabama wins this game pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Like if you compare all the numbers. Mm-hmm. Here's my question. Does Bama really want this game?
Yeah.
Right?
We are going in similar directions with our analyses.
Yeah, they're not in the playoff for just the second time since its existence. A bunch of players are in the transfer portal, including Trayshawn Holden, who is the fourth leading wide receiver on the team. He's gone. They have 13 total players right now in the transfer portal. Good news is that Bryce Young and Will Anderson, who are both really big difference makers for the Tide, obviously. I mean, you got a defending Heisman winner. They are going to play, and there was some speculation that because they're both potential first round draft picks, that they were going to sit out this game, but they have both declared they are going to play this game. Mm-hmm. But this is a K-State team that has adapted and evolved all season long. Will Howard has played really, really well coming in for Adrian Martinez. Mm-hmm. Martinez now is close to healthy. Will be available for this game. We talked about this in the Big 12 title game, that there is a possibility that you might have Martinez in Wildcat packages. Yep. That's a potential option here. Mm-hmm. Their running back Deuce Vaughn is just stupid fun to watch. Yes. He's just a speedy little guy. He's just gone. And the Powercats boast the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in Felix and Duke Uzoma.
Right. Carly, you seem to be vacillating here.
I'm picking with my heart.
Okay. Do it.
I'm picking with my heart, and I'm going to say, what the heck? Go Powercats.
Bam. Bam.
It's not logical. It's not logical at all. And if Bama wins this game by 3 touchdowns, I would not be stunned. Mm-hmm. But I question. This is a Bama team. We've talked over and over again this year. This is not the Bama teams that we're used to seeing. They're making a lot of mistakes. They have lots of penalties. You know, you've seen Saban get frustrated over on the sidelines with the bleep heard around the world that wasn't heard, right?
Yes.
And this just feels like an Alabama team that's just like, we don't know. We don't know. And if anybody's going to beat them this year, if there is a year that you could knock off Bama in a bowl game, this feels like the one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kansas State, why not? Go get them, Powercats.
Okay. You mentioned logic, but there is well, number one, we don't watch college football. Nobody watches college football for logic. That's
true.
That's why this game is better than any other. Mm-hmm. Because logic often does not work in this world. But I don't think it's illogical to ask a question about this Alabama team, and it's one that you would never have asked about any Saban teams or Saban, at least Saban teams in recent history. Do they give a crap?
Yeah.
I mean, do they? And we've talked about this. I've talked about this. We've talked about this multiple times this season. Normally, you would not have any reason to question mental preparation of a Nick Saban team, right. or emotional intensity. These guys are sharp. They are well prepared. They minimize mistakes, and they just bury the opponent. And this team has not done that. And this team has made mental errors after mental error after mental error, and it's cost Alabama games, the losses. There were stretches when the Crimson Tide this season, when those players didn't seem to be interested, and going into a game with a team that is motivated because they are playing the top program in college football.
Right.
They are the champions of a conference that doesn't get a whole lot of respect. They are coming off a win over a team that everyone sort of was like, yeah, butted for the whole season. And, TCU's like, yeah, they keep winning, but, who are they really? And blah, 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 blah. K-State knows how to get knows how to get this done. And that's how Alabama, I have this written down. This Alabama season will end with a bowl loss to the Powercats.
Woo!
And the fact that you and I both approach this from the same angle makes me feel a lot better about that pick, by the way. The 2 semifinal games are on New Year's Eve as well. We're going to come back to those. So we're jumping ahead to Monday, January 2nd at noon on, where's it going to be on?
That 4-letter network.
ESPN, once again. The Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic in Jerry World. Number 16, Tulane versus number 10, USC. Southern Cal is favored by 2.5 points. That's a tiny line. Mm-hmm. The AJ Fun Index is 62. And Caleb Williams says he's playing.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, if anything?
Right. I that's the very first line I have here is Ryan Abraham of USC football, former publisher of mine. So I gotta say, hey, Ryan. Reported earlier this month that Caleb Williams does expect to play in the Cotton Bowl. My next sentence is, but at what capacity?
Right.
Hamstring injuries are nothing to laugh at, nothing to scoff at. They take a long time to heal, right? And last time we saw Caleb Williams, other than, having his entire offensive line help him carry the Heisman Trophy off of the platform, we saw him hobbling around the backfield during the Pac-12 title game.
Yeah, barely able to walk.
Barely to move. Yeah. And Jordan Addison not playing in this game. He's got an ankle injury and has decided not to play because he's going to be a draft pick. He
top
was
five.
the team's
Gonna be a top 5 draft pick.
Yep. Either top 5 or top 10. I hope he's top 5, but he'll definitely be he'll be in the first several names that are announced at the draft. He was the team's leading receiver. Tulane, team that we don't know a ton about other than thanks to AJ, who's been watching them all season long, right?
Thank you, AJ.
Thank you, AJ. Tulane very quietly has become the and this doesn't sound like a lot, right? They're the 35th best total defense in the nation. Like 35th. Okay. So what? USC has only faced 2 teams all season that have better defenses than Tulane.
Right.
Those 2 teams are Oregon State, is ranked number 26, and Utah, ranked number 19.
Huh. What happened last time USC and Utah played each other?
Right.
I'm having it. Oh, right. Utah. That was that was an ugly game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Utah won that one big.
Utah swept them. Right. So we got 2 losses against Utah. And yes, USC beat the Beavs by 3 points. It was their closest game of the entire season. USC against a good defense equals struggle bus.
Right.
And we've seen that a couple of times this year. And by the way, Tulane is number 18 in pass defense. That's the best the Trojans will have seen all year. We also need to remember this is a Tulane team that beat Kansas State.
We were just talking about them
in the season.
We just talked about them. We picked them to beat Alabama. Huh. Okay. Wow.
Yes, I do realize there's a Heisman Trophy winner on the USC side of the field. I get that. But if TJ Spears can get the green wave ground game going,
that's true.
Michael Pratt has time to throw the football. This is a game Tulane wins. And if we had a healthy Caleb Williams on the other side of the field, I would pick this game completely differently.
Yeah. And yes.
But when you don't know, and we saw how ineffective the USC offense was when he couldn't move. He will be better than he was in the Pac-12 title game, but without his go-to Addison out there, and not 100% mobile, Tulane can win this football game. This game's close. I think this game is super close, but I think Tulane wins. I think Tulane wins. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I would, as a fan, I would love to see that. I don't know. Picking this game is tougher than picking a game, like Clemson, where the quarterback left. If Caleb Williams is healthy, if he is mobile and can do the stuff that he's used to being able to do, even without Addison, I think that's more than enough offense for the Green Wave to be able to keep up. But I mean, dude was hurting in the Pac-12 title game, and if you saw any of that, you know exactly. I mean, he was struggling just to walk off the field after possession. And if you're able to if you take away USC's pass offense, this is a whole different thing, because that is a very, very good defense. It looked at and I mean, it's still a hard thing to compare statistics that were put up in an AAC schedule versus a Pac-12 schedule, although maybe those are closer than Pac-12 fans would like to think these days.
Yeah.
I think USC has enough. And we've talked about it all year. The USC has gotten better up the middle as they've gained experience. And that has made a big difference. That's been a big change over the course of the year. Wasn't enough to play physical football with Utah. if it comes down to that, I think you still have to look at kind of the difference in talent levels between just in general a good Pac-12 school and a good AAC school. Frontline guys can be just as talented, but depth. If you're talking about being able to send in waves of guys who can pressure the wave, that pun was not intended. I
credit for it anyway.
Yeah, thank you. I think USC is the pick. That's not what I want to see. I want an upset here so much, but I think there's too much stuff. Even if Caleb Williams is still a bit limited, there is other talent besides Jordan Davison on the edges. I'm USC. I'm vacillating, but I think USC is the pick here. A game that Carla might be interested in,
just a little bit.
At 5 p.m. Hey, look, it's on ESPN. This is timed perfectly for shots of the sun setting over the San Gabriel Mountains at some point during the game. This is the promised land. The playoff notwithstanding. This is the Rose Bowl game presented by Prudential in lovely Pasadena, California. Number 11, Penn State versus number 8, Utah. Utah is favored by 2.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is a Big Ten-esque 52.5. And Carla, I'm going first.
Okay.
So you can have the final word on the game that I assume you are most interested in.
Yes. It is.
Based on the championship games, the conference championship games from a few weeks back, Utah it looks every bit as scary as Georgia. And if you remember the Rose Bowl from a year ago, which was my Buckeyes out there playing Dem Utes, Dem Utes smacked around Ohio State for pretty much the entire first half before settling into a shootout that Ohio State eventually won. That game, I think, is the key to this one and figuring out how this goes. Mentioned Georgia, obviously playing really well. Utah looked frightening as they thumped USC.
Yeah.
You know what unit was playing as good as nearly any other unit in the country at the end of the season? That's going to be Penn State's defense. Carla, the week prior to the Michigan game, Carla suggested that Penn State might be the best team in the Big Ten at that moment, and I could not come up with an argument to really challenge you on that. So Penn State's defense is playing lights out. That was the thing that Ohio State did not have a year ago. It's also a thing that the Utes didn't see a whole lot of in its home conference. Playing Utah is like playing a Big Ten team. And that's going to feel familiar to the Nittany Lions. To experienced quarterbacks, similar numbers. Penn State's offense with the two children who are switched off at tailback. That's enough. That's enough. Penn State's going to bring home the Big Ten, to the Big Ten yet another Rose Bowl title. What do you think?
Oh, first of all, I have to say I'm as excited as I am that Penn State is in the Rose Bowl game. I am just as excited to see the Penn State Blue Band in the Tournament of Roses parade.
Nice.
That is I'm a former marching band nerd. I can't wait to see. That's just one of those bucket list kind of moments. Right?
Cannot blame you for that.
Football. Again, like you said, statistically, these teams are very, very evenly matched. Here's what I like. What I like about what I see in those numbers, though. Yes, if you look at the scoring points per game, Utah scored more points per game than Penn State. But offensively, Utah's been pretty balanced.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? It's almost equal pass to run. I don't like the Penn State defense against a pass-heavy offense. See Ohio State and Michigan, right? And that's not to speak poorly of Cam Rising. Cam Rising is an incredible quarterback, and he's going to be a defensive challenge for the Knits. But I do like the fact that the Knits may be able to use their run defense, which has been spectacular, number 14 in the country, to force Utah to be one-dimensional. And that's not something that you could do against a team that plays, fun and gun, right? Like you said, Utah plays very similarly to a lot of the Big Ten offenses that Penn State is used to seeing. So, yes, while the Utah defense is scary, and we saw what they did to USC, and I have some uncomfortable thoughts about the way that the game is going to go. I do like the fact that the Penn State defense is going to have the opportunity to force Utah to be one-dimensional. One thing that makes me really nervous about this game is the fact that Joey Porter Jr. is not playing. And a lot of times he was the catalyst that got the defense going.
Yeah.
So you're going to be missing the spark. But I think the fact that this is the Rose Bowl game, right? There's something to this. And this is the first time that any of these players have been to the Rose Bowl game. It's been long enough since it's hard to believe that it's been that long since Penn State was. That doesn't feel like it was that long ago that game had that spectacular game happened against USC.
Yeah. Well, that speaks to the fact that Clifford's been quarterback there for 8 years. So
for 18 years, right? Yeah. Professor Clifford. Offensively, the key to the game for Penn State is they got to run the football. Right, you got to rely on those two dual threat freshmen, Singleton and Allen. They're going to have to work hard though, as will the offensive line against that tough Utah run defense, because Utah's run defense is really, really good. Clifford's going to have to lead this team, but that's a role he stepped up into this season. Something that he hasn't necessarily done in the past, and I think that's because he has that run game finally. He's getting time. He's got the offensive line. He's got the run game that he can rely on. Last time Penn State played in the Rose Bowl, we got that spectacular game. I expect this game to be just as spectacular. I also expect to be very uncomfortable on Monday evening.
If your game is anything at all like my Rose Bowl was a year ago, yes, that's a good bet.
I expect it to be extremely uncomfortable, but I mean, come on, you know who I'm picking in this game. My Rose Bowl shirt arrives tomorrow. # We are.
We are. Very nice. Very nice. There's Charlie. Charlie, we are about to talk about the last two, the semifinals, the Final Four, if you will. We will transport you magically back to Saturday, December 31st at 4 p.m. Once again on ESPN. The Verbo, we have the whole place to ourselves Fiesta Bowl. I don't know if that means it's going to be like just the football teams and nobody else there. What is that? I don't know what that means in that context. This, of course, is in Glendale, Arizona. This, of course, is number 3 TCU versus number 2 Michigan. Michigan is favored by 7.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is 58.5. Carla, what do you think?
We've said it over and over again this season. TCU just knows how to win football games.
They do.
Until it didn't. Although it kind of did. It was a touchdown. In the Big 12 title game.
Yes.
Max Duggan's just been impressive all season long. It's just been a heck of a run from this TCU team, but this TCU offense that has persevered time and time and time again and has become the 6th best scoring offense in the country is going up against the number 3 total defense in the country.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be the difference here. Because you know who number 7 is on the scoring offense list?
I do not.
That would be Michigan.
Oh, and that's who they're okay. I got you.
Right. Like Michigan likes to run the football, even without Quorum, who's hurt. Donovan Edwards did just fine in the Big Ten title game. Put up 185 yards.
Yes.
On Purdue. TCU's defense is fine against the run, to use AJ's terminology, right? But they're not stellar. Michigan, on the other hand, is spectacular against the run, which will likely make the Horny Toads singularly focused on offense, and that's not exactly what you want. to see in any situation. I think these two offenses are pretty similar. I think Michigan's defense is what gets this done for them. I really, really want the Horny Toads to go play for a national title, but I just don't think it's in the cards for this one. I unfortunately think I need to go with Team Up North, and it pains me to do that, but I just don't see how it works any other way.
It's interesting that this, as all the games that we've spoken about, to include the one that we have yet to speak about, this is the biggest point spread. And I'm not. It's not Georgia over Ohio State. It's this one, and it is a product of. I mentioned previously, kind of the side eye, the sideways look. We always look to Big 12 teams, regardless of what they've done, and what TCU has done this year has been fantastic. But it's also, and I'm finally coming to grips with this, that Jimmy has done what he set out to do in Ann Arbor. I've talked about kind of the pieces, and with a focus more on McCarthy as we've gone through the season. But after getting to see that defense firsthand in late November, that is a tough thing for anyone to overcome. At that game, the Wolverines gave Ohio State quarterback CJ Stroud fits with steady pressure in his face. Not always overwhelming, but it got to the point where, in the moment, I'm yelling at CJ, throw the damn ball, throw it. And then you watch the replay, which I have done. He didn't have anywhere to throw it. That's why he's hesitating. It's not because he's caving to the pressure and he's suddenly forgotten how to do his job. He had nowhere to go with the damn ball.
Yeah.
So that combo, plus, that made Ohio State one-dimensional. Could not run the ball. I don't. Is Max Duggan the guy to beat this? Just to kind of pick out one thing that CJ Stroud gets criticized about over the time. He's not. Max Duggan is not a running quarterback, but he does run the ball well. I know we're skeptical officially on this show about quarterbacks who lead their team in rushing, and that's exactly what he did in the Big 12 title game. But if he's able to rush for 100 yards against Michigan, that changes the script completely. Because that has turned down the defense. That has turned down the defensive intensity. The pass defense intensity that he's looking at. The linebackers kind of have to stay put. Opens up a whole bunch of stuff that Ohio State just was not able to do. So maybe that's how that works. Will they? Maybe for a half. Michigan's really good. And you guys know it is physically painful for me to say that. Michigan's really good. And this game will reinforce that point. And the Wolverines will be one game. We'll be getting ready to play in the national title game on January 9th. On 8 p.m. at 8 p.m. on ESPN. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which I guess, peaches and chicken, that sort of works. That's okay. And I haven't had any food from Chick-fil-A in about a million years, but the last time I was there, I got a peach milkshake and it was fantastic.
There you go.
Just for
it's
what
gotta be
it's
better
worth.
than the citrus Cheez-Its, right?
The thing that
Bowlapalooza reference, if you haven't listened to Bowlapalooza, go back and listen to
Bowlapalooza reference. Plus, they're sponsoring all of the remaining bowl games from tonight forward, I think, in some fashion or another. And a representative of Cheez-Its was trying to explain to a journalist that one Cheez-It is a Cheez-It. Two or more Cheez-Its are Cheez-It crackers. And I'm like, dude, no.
Just stop.
That's not how that works. You don't get to randomly rewrite the English language.
The plural of Cheez-It is not Cheez-It crackers. No, it doesn't work that way. No.
Although I say that after we have added no fewer than 3 words to the English language this season.
This season, yes.
I'm still waiting to hear back from the Oxford English Dictionary about those suggestions, by the way. Okay. Peach Bowl, Atlanta, 8 p.m. on Saturday. Number 4 Ohio State versus number 1 Georgia. Georgia is favored by 6.5 points, not as wide a spread as Michigan over TCU. The AJ Fun Index is 62 points. I'm taking that as a good sign because Vegas at least is looking for scoring, which would say this is not a one-sided thing. Oh man, Carla, go ahead. I'm a freaking mess already.
Yeah, and I didn't put a ton of my notes because I figured you would have a lot to say about this game. But my number one question here is, what defensive adjustments has Ohio State made since November 26th?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big question here for me. Because we know that the Bucs can score. We know that the number 2 scoring offense in the country. But Georgia has a capable offense and also the number 2 scoring defense in the nation. So this comes down to adjustments. And AJ pointed this out a couple of times this season. Ryan Day has not excelled at making mid-game adjustments this year. This isn't a mid-game adjustment, right? Per se.
Right.
But the last time we saw your Bucs, they were getting yanked around by Michigan's offensive scheme. So what's changed? Right. That's seriously what this whole game boils down to, that for me.
Okay.
Has Ryan Day been able to do something defensively? Because we've said repeatedly this season, Georgia knows how to turn on Death Star mode.
They do.
And they're essentially playing at home. Offensively, they're right. They're not the number 2 scoring offense in the nation, but they're in the top 10. Right. I like Georgia until I see the first couple of plays in this game. I can't pick against them right now because I need to know what those adjustments are. If you can't stop Stetson Bennett in that offense, you're not gonna beat Georgia because it's gonna be a slog to score points against that Georgia defense. It is, and we know that Ohio State can score, but can they stop them? And that's a question that we saw against Michigan. They couldn't. Yeah, they couldn't.
Well, go ahead.
No, I can't pick against Georgia in this game. I want to root conference. I do. I really want to root conference, but I can't do it.
I do not blame you. And the thing, I mean, Ohio State scoring is not a guarantee. I mean, if you need a blueprint to how to keep Ohio State's offense in check, I just talked about this when picking Michigan. There it is. It's laid out, and you're talking about defensive players who are better than the defensive players that Jimmy has.
Right.
There is, as you mentioned, the Death Star factor. We've discussed this over and over and over. Each time Georgia has been presented with a challenge, they've responded in a manner best described as terrifying. If you are not a Bulldogs fan. So I mean, if I was a rational, sane human being looking at this game, there is no freaking way I'm picking Ohio State. Just no. What does Ohio State have? It's a hard thing to quantify. As it was a hard thing to quantify, when Ohio State was going into a semifinal against Alabama with the third string quarterback. Ohio State has good players, among the best in the country. They routinely compete with the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Michigans, in whatever whatever you think about recruiting ratings, they're always there. These guys have heard for a month that they are lucky to be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lose your rivalry game for the second year in a row. Don't get to the Big Ten, to the conference title game for the second year in a row. And Ohio State just kind of squeaks in. And look, we've talked about TV numbers and the influence that has, and I fully admit that gives Ohio State an advantage that a lot of schools don't have when these things are being decided. They also have an opportunity with one game to sort of change the legacy of this team. Because right now, I mean, they are monsters in the regular season as they're mowing down Big Ten opponents. But, you lose to Oregon, you lose to Michigan twice. What is the legacy of this team? You change your legacy from losing the rivalry game 2 years in a row to beating the defending national champions and earning a shot at a national title of their own. And perhaps an opportunity to get revenge on their rivals in the process. This is all again, not quantifiable. I can't give you any numbers that would tell you that Ohio State has a chance here. I literally none. There's nothing. But the 2014 Sugar Bowl should tell you everything you need to know about how this game could turn out.
Yeah.
And how I think it will turn out. Georgia's cruised. And when they've had when they've been challenged, they've responded. If Ohio State can respond to the challenge it has been presented with, which essentially is a second chance, they can push Georgia and they can win this game. And that's where I'm picking. That is where I am picking. Boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube and on the show's Facebook page. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. Be sure to come back next week. When I hope we're going to be talking about an Ohio State-Michigan national championship game. We will be revealing the Bowlapalooza champion for this year. And wrapping up the 11th season of the Carla and Crappy Show, which is very cool. Carla, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, the first thing that came to mind was that it's very weird with the way the calendar fell this year that the Rose Bowl is the last bowl game. Like we normally end up with like a weird random game like afterwards, and
I always kind of look forward. There was OU a couple of years ago was playing like on January 6th or something, and it was okay, this is nice.
Yeah, it was just kind of a couple random games that happened after the new year, and that's not a thing that's happening this year. So the Rose Bowl is it, which is there's not even a late game after the Rose Bowl.
I would. The traditionalist in me would like to have a Sugar Bowl after the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Because that's usually how that goes. But okay, we're fine. We just have that one big one when we're done. And I am not at all sad about the Rose Bowl being the one to like wrap up bowl season. I think that works for me.
Yeah, no, I mean it'll be a lovely way to wrap up. I mean, it's the most aesthetically pleasing of
by far. It's not even close.
Yeah. So
and I didn't even have to look up San Gabriel Mountains. I've just heard that reference so often, and like the purple sunlight diffusing and it's just like, oh man, this isn't even fair. Not even, sorry, AJ, not even the Hawaii Bowl, the Bahamas Bowl can top this. No.
Yeah, I'll never not hear it in Keith's voice.
Right. Yes.
Those of you that are old enough to get that reference, you get that reference. So No, it's been a fun bowl season. There was something else that I had too, but it's gone out of my brain at this point. So,
okay.
So no, it's going to be a fun last stretch here, and
it's going to be a fun last stretch here. I'm going to bring up OU again. I hope they win. I'm not going to watch because the whole bar furniture bowl. No, I don't want to deal with those guys. And I have words to describe them that would earn us an explicit tag on Apple, and I'm going to just not do that. So if you're comfortable with watching them, please do. That's fine. No judgment. And again, the cliche is there's a lot of football to be played. The truth is there is not a lot of football to be played. And guys, you should be watching if you are a college football fan, because we're down to the precious few final games of the season. And we're down to the ones that matter, the ones that in the national scheme.
Yeah.
The ones that matter. When magical things can happen, a TCU can beat a Michigan, and Ohio State can beat a Georgia. Or we could get an Ohio State Michigan national title game, which I'm not sure I would be able to do a show about that.
Well, you're gonna have to
just as I will be speaking in tongues. It will be utter nonsense coming out of my mouth. But we will cross that bridge if and when we come to it. Carla, thank you once again. Enjoy the last week. Good luck in the Rose Bowl. Hope you beat them Utes.
Thank you. And good luck to your Bucks. I hope they win. I do. For the conference's sake, I hope they win. But we both have tough battles ahead of us. Here we go.
Absolutely. Here we go. Boys and girls.
Here's to a new year.
Here is to yes. By the next time when we talk to you, it'll be 2023. Happy New Year. Enjoy the football. Thank you guys for watching, for listening, for all you do to support us. And we will see you back here sometime next week to talk about that natty. All right. Cheers, Carla. Cheers, all the ins, guys. We'll talk to you again soon.